We're now going to look at how to complete a MARAC referral and DASH risk assessment. The first page focuses on the victim and perpetrator details. Firstly, it asks for your details as a referrer. Please supply your contact number and email address, as the IDVA may need to get in contact with you as a referrer for further information. When inputting the victim details, it is important that contact details for the victim are supplied, as this is how the IDVA will initially make contact. Even more important is whether this is a safe number to contact. Please ask the victim if it is safe for them to receive voicemails or text messages, or if there are particular times of the day to contact them and when this is safe. Please make sure this is documented. The next section focuses on the perpetrator details. Please provide as much information that is known. The start of page 2 follows in the same vein as page 1, where you can now record details of any children. Please ensure you complete as much information as possible, as this may be needed for safeguarding purposes. It is important to record the relationship of the child to the perpetrator, as this may raise issues around child contact or parental responsibility. The next 4 boxes give you the opportunity to record if the child or children have been present in the house at the recent incident, or if they have witnessed the incident itself. If you are making a referral to MARAC, as you have assessed the victim as being high risk of harm and there are children in the household, a safeguarding referral should always be submitted to first response. The next section deals with the reason for the referral. The first 4 boxes are the 4 thresholds for referring a case to MARAC. The first threshold is 14 yes answers on the DASH risk assessment below. Once you have completed the risk assessment with the victim, a score of 14 or higher automatically places the victim as high risk, and therefore a referral to MARAC should be made. You should add your comments into this box, where you can write any details pertaining to the recent incident that has triggered this referral. The second threshold is a MARAC repeat. If this victim has been heard at MARAC already in the past 12 months and there is a further incident, this should automatically be referred back to MARAC. You can write the details of the further incidents in this box. The third threshold is potential escalation. This is in relation to the number of incidents that have occurred in the past 12 months. This criteria can be used to identify cases where there is not a positive identification of a majority of the risk factors on the list, but where abuse appears to be escalating or has the potential to escalate. It's common practice to start with 3 domestic abuse occurrences in a 12-month period. You can type the details of the instance and how this is escalating in this space. The last threshold for a referral to MARAC is professional judgment. This can be used where the above 3 criteria do not apply. It is really important that you fill out this box with as much detail as possible as to why, as a professional, you feel this victim is at risk of serious harm or homicide. This could be a number of factors. For example, concerns a victim is unable to disclose the full extent of abuse due to fear, minimisation, extreme or sadistic acts of violence or control, a perpetrator's previous criminal history, credible threats to kill, for example holding a gun to a victim. These are just some examples, but please ensure you document your reasons for concern if you're referring under professional judgment. The next couple of boxes deal with consent, and if the victim is aware that you are making the referral to MARAC and if they've given consent for this. Now, while it is good practice to get the victim's consent for a referral to MARAC, if you have assessed them as high risk, MARAC referrals can and should still be made regardless of consent. It is important to document whether consent has been obtained, as this lets other agencies know if the victim has been made aware of the referral and whether or not they have consented to this. The next box looks at who the victim is afraid of. This may just be the perpetrator, but this is important to ask this question and document what the victim says, as there may be more than one perpetrator, for example in cases of honour-based violence or if the perpetrator is involved with gangs. We then go on to look at the victim and any additional vulnerabilities they may have. This is important as vulnerabilities may increase risk factors and need to be considered during any safety planning. You should document any physical disabilities, illnesses, mental health issues, drug or alcohol issues, language barriers, age that may be relevant to the victim. We then look at whether the perpetrator has made any threats of arson. Please document what threats have been made and if a referral to the fire service has already been made for a safe and well check. The next box is just for any relevant information that you may hold as a professional that may affect the level of risk. And finally, if this victim has been referred to any other MARAC, and if so, when and where. This is particularly important if a victim moves from area to area. This could be through choice or trying to flee a perpetrator. It could also be as a result of the perpetrator moving the victim to avoid services becoming involved. Pages 3 and 4 give you more information about the definition for a repeat MARAC and the different threshold criteria for a referral to MARAC. You can read through these when completing the referral to refresh your memory if needed. We now go on to page 5, which starts the DASH RIC assessment. The first question: has the current incident resulted in injury? This is quite a simple yes or no answer. However, it is important to explain if this incident has caused any injury and to document what these are. For example, you may say the victim was pushed down the stairs and has bruising along her arm and shoulder. If this incident hasn't caused an injury, it is important to consider if there have been any previous injuries. These should also be recorded, but no can be ticked for this question. For example, the victim may advise she was kicked in the leg 6 months ago by the perpetrator and had bruising and a small cut to her right knee. It's important to get as much detail as possible, including any approximate dates. This information will help you to form a professional judgment at the end of the risk assessment. Question 2 asks, are you very frightened? You can answer yes or no for this question. There is space for an explanation in question 3. Question 3 asks, what is the victim afraid of? Is it further injury or violence? Do they feel the abuser might kill them, themselves, or children or other people? Are they afraid of further injury or violence? Answer yes or no, and the victim's answer will usually follow on from question 2. For example, yes, I am very frightened. I am worried the perpetrator may come to my house and try and break in. I'm scared that I will be hurt. The victim may answer no, but say, I feel very anxious about the situation and I'm not sleeping. It is important to consider any responses and record this information as it will help to form a decision based on professional judgment. Question 4. Do you feel isolated from family or friends? Does the abuser try to stop you from seeing family, friends, doctors, other people? It is important to consider in this question that the victim may not have been physically prevented, but this question helps you to consider elements of controlling behaviour. For example, the victim may say, yes, they never let me visit my family and I was not allowed to go to the doctor on my own. Or they may say no, but he or she always got annoyed when my mum visited and in the end my mum stopped visiting. Question 5. Are you feeling depressed or having suicidal thoughts? You can record yes or no and record any comments that the client says. For example, no, I'm not suicidal, but I feel very anxious and I'm currently taking antidepressants. If you ask the question and someone tells you that they are feeling suicidal, you may need to explore this further. Does the victim want to harm themselves now? Do they have a plan for suicide? Do they want to hurt themselves? Discuss with them how they feel. It is important to remember we're not all trained mental health professionals, so you must pass this information to the appropriate service to make an assessment. Access emergency support such as calling 999 for an ambulance or their GP for support in line with your organisation's safeguarding policy. Question 6. Have you separated or tried to separate from the abuser within the past year? It's important to consider if the victim has separated and reconciled and why this has happened. For example, were they pressured by the perpetrator? Did they resume the relationship out of fear or necessity? Are there implications around homelessness if they were to leave? Did the victim want to separate but felt unable to? Record any comments with as much detail as possible.